Welcome to the Power of Oxygen First, the podcast that helps you stop running on empty and start leading your life and business with intention. I'm your host, Dot Rock, founder of Dot Rock Consulting and creator of the Chief Energy Officer approach. And around here, we believe that putting on your oxygen mask first isn't selfish, it's essential. Each week, we'll explore what it really means to build a sustainable, soul aligned life. From letting go of what's draining you, to learning how to receive support, to growing a business that feels like home. So take a deep breath. You're right where you're meant to be. Well, hello, my podcast listeners. I'm so excited to have you back. It's really been fun to be recording episodes each week again. So, welcome back to the Power of Oxygen First, the podcast where we slow down just enough to hear ourselves again, to honor what our energy needs, and to put our own oxygen mask on first, no matter what life is throwing at us. And trust me, I probably more than most people know that that is hard to do. And I think that's why I started this podcast in the first place. So, today's episode is another love letter and a goodbye letter. This one is to 2025. If you recall, I wrote a letter to our old house, releasing it in our old town, and our new house in our new town, welcoming them into our life. I've found that letter writing is really becoming a lot of who I am in the ways of how I'm expressing myself. And it's kind of who I was as a small child. I had a pen pal, Holly Carney. Shout out to Holly if you're listening. We would write each other letters after I had met her in the third grade, and we loved and adored each other. And she moved away shortly after we met, and we just started writing letters, and she remains someone that I message, and those letters, I still have them. So, anyway, I started writing more letters to significant things in my life in 2025, and I hope to do more of that in 2026. But this episode is all about a goodbye letter and about that truth telling, throat wide open exhale to the year that really shaped me more than I think I expected it to. 2025 was the year of the snake, so it was actually all about shedding. So, this is the love letter to 2025. I encourage you to think about doing the same in your life, releasing and reflecting on what 2025 was to you. And now I know personally, sometimes when things are hard and I have already gotten through them and past them, or maybe they're still hard and I'm in the muck of it, I do not want to reflect. But I have actually found that if I just set a 5 minute timer and do so, it is quite profound in what gratitude I can find in the strength I had in myself. Even when I'm in dark times, you guys, this is a powerful tool for me. So I know that I resist it, and I also know that it's so very good for me. So here's my letter to 2025, the year I shed everything, not gracefully, not quietly, and not without a plan, but with rawness. Rawness that I did not know I had. I knew I was strong and resilient, but this year I was raw and I let myself show this to the world, to everyone, to my friends, and to my family, and to all the people that follow me that don't even know me in person. There were so many days in 2025 that I simply struggled to get out of bed, and that getting out of bed was my very biggest accomplishment. I have never felt more scared or more resolved to take necessary steps to freedom that I knew I needed than I did and I took in 2025. This was the year I knew with all of my heart we needed to move and shed everything. This was the year I deleted a lot of people and blocked more people than ever before. And you guys, I am not a blocker. I don't block people. I don't believe in the energy of it, but I needed to this year. And it's the first year I ever embraced that for boundaries. I wanted peace, and I did whatever it took to set boundaries to honor this peace and this need in myself. I had hoped to move in January, the beginning of 2025, but it took more time, more battles, and more exhaustion than I ever thought I had in me. And by the end of July, Dom and I packed up our entire life, an entire identity, an entire business community, an entire life I had built, and we moved to a new city after myself being in Durango 29 years on and off in that same community. And so Dominic and I moved. We bought a new home, we furnished it, we released the old car, we welcomed a new one. Dom started a new school, joined a new travel baseball team, and he put on 30 pounds of a lot of muscle, actually, and weight, and began to see himself in a completely different light. This was the year that he went on and off antidepressants, which was the hardest decision for me to put him on them, but the best. He found strength in daily weightlifting, and he found a version of himself that was buried under heartbreak and exhaustion. Obi had major surgery, and we lived in that terrified limbo where every vet call feels like you're holding your breath underwater. And then there was me, the version of me that crumbled, the version of me that rebuilt herself, not into who she was, but into who she was always becoming. I want to name the three things that I am most proud of in myself in 2025 because they didn't come wrapped in celebration. They came wrapped in fear and trembling, and I don't know if I can do this. The biggest one for me was I spoke my truth in a court matter, despite my lawyer, despite my friends, despite those that know me best advising me to not pursue the case. But I knew deeply in me that I had to do so for myself and not for anyone else. I don't exactly know why, but I knew I had to. And I spoke my truth and I won. Not because I fought recklessly, but because I fought from alignment. I fought from self-respect. I fought from deep, unshakable protection of my son and myself. The second one is that I moved, not just to a new house, but I moved my entire life and I fought for it. I refused to keep the peace anymore when Dominic's father actually pushed against me and did not want me to move. I fought him. And I did so because I knew what was best for Dominic and I knew what was best for myself. And for the first time, I didn't fold. I didn't do something to make him happy, his father. I stood my ground and it held and we moved. And the third one was a moment I spoke about on the podcast when I told Dominic the truth. We were in Omaha, Nebraska. He had struck out a couple of times during the baseball games at the tournament that day, and I spoke to him. And I said, like, look, you're choosing to play video games more than you are choosing to put in the work. And it was a really hard moment. But when the world felt heavy, I told him that I had given him the tools, but what he did with them was up to him. And he was so mad at me when I did. But that parenting moment, it was one of the hardest, most important mothering moments of my life because it shifted everything in him. And he talks about it now that that was a profound moment. But those are the three moments that I'm most proud of myself for. This was the year that I had to trust myself in a way I never had. I defined self-trust. This is the year I kept whispering, even through tears and exhaustion. It won't always be this hard. Someday, this will all just be a blip. And I was right. Because when things fall apart, they are really clearing the ground for something better. The life Dom and I are living now, this home, this new community, this new breath, it feels better than I imagined it would. And let's be honest, I am still building, but I'm not rebuilding. There's no going back to the breadcrumb eating girl woman that I used to be. This woman learned to love the sound of her feet walking away from people and places that were not meant for her, and to walk away from people who do not fully choose her back. And that is not easy, my friends. I gave myself the greatest gift: self-trust and self-respect. I have let down so many walls that had become my personality, the walls of doing everything so that people would see me as good, the walls of doing more to earn other people's love and admiration, and my own love and admiration. I began to speak my truths, even when they scared me. I expressed feelings I had once swallowed whole, and I protected my son, and I protected me. I outgrew an entire life and stepped into one with more light, more space, and more truth. And the pain and trauma of it all, of the last 2 years, they didn't break me, even though at times I felt like they did. The pain and trauma catapulted me. I learned how naked it feels to not know what is next, which is where I am now. I've learned how strangely freeing it feels to think about skinny dipping across the lake near my home simply because I can. And I will once it's not quite so cold. I've learned how dismantling a survival identity makes room for a thriving one. And I burnt it all down pretty gracefully, messily, necessarily. And now my new life is asking for something totally different from me. It's asking for space, space to plant seeds, space to rest, space to slow down and let my nervous system catch up to this expansion. This timeline doesn't require speed because it's not a timeline anymore. It requires permission, permission to grow slow, permission to grow fast, permission to grow exactly how I want to. And this episode is my goodbye, my honoring, and my thank you to 2025 and to the version of me that walked right through it, right through those flames and into this new life. I think 2026 is going to hold a lot of bold miracles and more surprises than 2025 even did. And I didn't even talk about all the amazing bold miracles that happened to me in 2025 that got me through this year. But if you feel like doing the same thing, I have some actionable steps for how to say goodbye to your year, a year that changed you undoubtedly as well. Step one would be to name what you survived and what you shed. Remember, it was the year of the snake. But transformation begins with acknowledgement. I like to sit down and journal or go for a walk and make a list in my head of the identities, the relationships, the patterns, and narratives that you shed this year. And honor that shedding in and of itself takes bravery, even if it was just one small thing. Step number two, I encourage you to identify truths that you finally spoke out loud. Because truth telling is oxygen. You can write down one moment, big or small, where you spoke a truth you were used to swallowing. Name how that shifted your life. My moments were not that huge when I spoke them, but they ended up being huge. I thought I was just telling Dominic the truth in that car in Omaha, but it changed everything. I knew that having the conversation with his dad for our move was huge. That one was profound. So I encourage you to look at the moments this last year that you spoke your truths. Step number 3, try to return to a moment you thought would break you or even did break you in that moment. Ask yourself now, what did that moment teach me about my strength, my resilience, my intuition, or my capacity? Any one of those is profound, my friends. Step number 4, define the version of you who is now emerging, not the old version. Sometimes when we're healing, we think we're trying to get back to who we were. You guys, we are aging every year. We are not going to be who we were when we were 25. We are not going to be who we were when we were 35. We're who we are now. We're not rebuilding, we're expanding. So think of yourself as not the old version, not the rebuilt version, but the expanded one. What does she need? What does she value? What will she no longer tolerate? This version of you who is emerging. Okay, step number 5, give your new life some space. Let your nervous system slow down. That's what I'm working on so hard right now. Let yourself go and shift to a slower pace and let the seeds you're planting root before you actually expect them to bloom. So here is your deep breath action prompt today at the end of the podcast. So take one deep breath in and let it fall out of your mouth with a sigh. And your journal or walking meditation prompt this week is, what part of me am I finally ready to thank and release from 2025? And what part of me am I ready to meet in 2026? So let one answer rise from your body, not your mind. Let it rise from your heart and your body. And just breathe. So, if this episode reminded you that you don't have to do any of this alone, I really would love if you consider downloading my free Support and Breathe return on investment calculator at rockconsulting.com. It's simple, it's eye-opening, it's a tool that can help you see how much time, energy, and emotional oxygen you can reclaim by getting the right support. Whether that's hiring a virtual assistant, delegating tasks, or simply giving yourself permission to stop doing everything for yourself and reach out to a friend. If something in this episode landed with you, if you are touched by part of my story, come share it with me on Instagram at _rock_. I'd love to hear your story, what your biggest reflections did, because they helped me create episodes that support you and your biggest seasons of change. So remember, if your energy is your greatest asset, you should protect it, you should invest in it, and always, always put on your own oxygen mask first. I'll see you next week. Let yourself be seen in a deeper and truer light. If this conversation reminded you that you don't have to do it all by yourself, download my free Support and Breathe calculator. It's a return on investment calculator available at rockconsulting.com. It's a quick, eye-opening way to see how much time and energy you could reclaim by getting the right support. And that doesn't always mean you actually have to pay for that support. If there's something in this episode that resonated with you, come share your reflections on Instagram at _rock_. I love hearing what lands for you most so that I can create more episodes like that. Remember, if your energy is your greatest asset, protect it, invest in it, and always put on your oxygen mask first. I'll see you next week.